Tomorrow at noon Eastern and 9 Pacific.
The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the Radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. Happy Sunday to everybody out there. A beautiful fall Sunday in Las Vegas. I think it's going to get up to about 75-ish, which in Las Vegas means people break out UGG boots and jackets. Yes, at 75 they do, believe it or not. But that's okay because we just endured the summer and we're ready for the fall. But we're ready to talk about football today, talk about Raiders football here on Las Vegas' first and only all Raiders talk show on CBS Sports Radio 1140. So thank you for joining us. Big game for the Raiders today in Green Bay. We'll talk about that and give you a rundown. We're going to, after the next break, we're going to be talking to attorney Michael Troiano about the Trent Brown situation. Then we will have Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, as he's known, the franchise down in San Diego, longtime NFL play-by-play, and really just a pioneer in the world of sports talk. He'll be with us to talk about the AFC West race, also the disaster that is the NFL in Los Angeles, at least with one team, with the Rams not so much, but we'll talk about that as well. Then Tommy White from the Local 872, the Laborers Union here in town. We had requests. We listened to our listeners.
Yes.
They said, we want to know more about the roof. How are they raising this dang thing? So we're going to bring that to you as well with Tommy White. He's going to get us up to speed on the roof and all of that with the stadium. So that'll be great as well. Then Bill Rabeor later on in the show from Green Bay, from WDUZ, The Fan in Green Bay. He's going to preview the Packers for us so that you can get a little more on that team as the Raiders get set to do that. And, of course, Kelly's Corner, our NFL picks, and more. Want to start off the show with some really big news for us here, and that is, and you'll see this up on our website, silverandblacktoday.com. Also, we're streaming live video, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, so you can watch us here in the studio as well. But I wanted to tell you guys that the show is expanding. That's right. Yes. We're now going to be doing a show in Thailand. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect. That's good for me.
We do a post-game show. And the answer is not right after the games, because the games change in programming at radio stations. All that's a little different. So we couldn't do one right after the show to talk about that week's game. But what we could do is get with you on Tuesday after Monday Night Football's over and all that jazz, and talk Raider football with you about the week that was. So Tuesday night, 6 to 7 p.m. here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We hit prime time with Silver and Black tonight, where we will talk about that week's game. It'll be myself and Chaz. Kelly has prior business commitments, but he will join us when he can, hopefully.
Yeah. That's great.
And so we'll do that. And then on Sundays, we'll be much more focused on looking forward and not talking about the game that was. But also we can work in some general NFL news and guests and things like that where that impacts the Raiders as well. So we're really proud of that. And I want to thank both Dan Kearney, who runs Entercom here in Las Vegas, and Paul Ihander, our program director, as well as our producer, Mark Bonilla, and Trent, who's here, our engineer, who makes us go on the air. But I want to thank everybody out there for helping us get, because if we didn't have good listenership, guys, they wouldn't give us another show.
I mean,
right?
the more we're talking about the Raiders, the better it is, right? And then this Tuesday night, it's great for the listeners, because now they're going to have a platform. Hopefully we get a lot more callers, because the listeners do want to do kind of a deep dive into the game. They like talking about the game. So hopefully it's going to be great for the listeners as well.
Yep. And we will get that all started on October 29th.
Perfect.
So just in time for Halloween. Chaz is going to dress up. He promised me he will have a costume on. We will also stream this live on video just like we do our Sunday show. So you'll be able to watch us as well and have fun. So thank you to all of you for making this show a success and for everybody here, including my two co-hosts, who I would not have been able to do this and be where we are without them as well. So thanks to everybody, and thanks to you, the listeners, for doing that. All right, we're going to move on. The one thing, guys, we always talk about here on the show is, of course, the Raiders in the community, already very active in the Las Vegas community, haven't even moved here yet. But this week, our correspondent, David Stepanian, was out. The Raiders did a nice event with Special Olympics, so we're going to play you his story on the Raiders and in the community. Here's David Stepanian.
For the second time in 2019, the Raiders have teamed up with the Special Olympics of Nevada to provide a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to keep.
There's a joy in the air that's infectious, so it's cool.
The flag football event aims to promote a healthy and active lifestyle among the children. On top of playing flag football, the kids also ran drills and learned a cheerleading dance routine from the Raiderettes. The Raiders have been holding events like this throughout Las Vegas for a couple of years now in an effort to improve the health and well-being of the younger community. Nevada Special Olympics Director Terrence Thornton believes the Raiders' involvement provides a huge boost to their mission.
Our athletes couldn't be more pleased to have the Raiders out here supporting them, not only with alumni players, but even with the Raiderettes, the mascot. It's very encouraging to have that professional support to our athletes. It gives them something more to aspire to as they're working really hard in their sport.
The team also provided lunch to the students and included interactive games and prize giveaways. The families of the children were also invited to be in attendance to cheer on their young ones. To find out more about the Special Olympics of Nevada, head to sonv.com. That's sonv.com. And to learn more about the Raiders Foundation and how you can help, go to raiders.com/community. Reporting for Silver and Black today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right, there you go. There you go. Raiders in the community. David Stepanian, thanks for the report. And guys, again, that's the thing with an NFL team in your market. People don't realize. I think they saw it. The Golden Knights have done such a good job of being involved in our community that people understood it with the hockey team. But now you're going to have the NFL team, which is an even bigger presence. So good stuff.
Yep.
We'll see. Again, we're going to take a break here in a few minutes. When we come back, we're going to talk to attorney Michael Troiano, TroianoVegasLaw.com. Of course, a proud.
They've got a really good young secondary, so they're going to be able to, the defense is going to be the focal point for them today. And if Brown's out, I mean, that's just a gaping hole.
Yeah, and Gabe Jackson was supposed to come back today too, right? And we're not sure how much he's going to play. But if those two don't get a lot of minutes, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for the Raiders today. That's for sure.
It will. But it's a matchup though that I think they can keep it close. And we're going to talk again with Bill Rabeor from The Fan in Green Bay, Wisconsin, about that. So I also want to make sure you stay tuned. That's going to be in the second hour as we talk a little more about the game coming up here at 10 a.m. West Coast time. And again, guys, we've had with them on the road. We've been the kind of de facto pregame show for I don't know what you guys think about it, but that's where I'm at. I think that it's wide open at this point. Doesn't mean in any way that the Raiders have some kind of leg up or anything, because they don't. They have holes in their roster. They're a young team, and you're going to have step forward, step back. But it certainly got interesting with the Mahomes injury.
Yeah, well, they should definitely take this. They know they have an opportunity. They should definitely take advantage of it, and hopefully that's their mindset going into the game, and they bring that energy today, knowing that they can make up a couple games in the division. It's huge. Yeah,
they need energy and blocking up front and some good defensive back
play. They need a lot of everything. But still, everybody was talking about how this long road trip, or whatever they were calling it, was really going to throw the season off. And I love the way that they've really flipped the script, and being 3-2 at this juncture in the season, and kind of using this long road trip as a bonding. It's just been all positive for the Raiders so far. And hopefully they keep it going today.
And as I've always said, it's not so much the traveling that is the issue for the Raiders. It's been the schedule. It's been a tough schedule. It's not easier today. It's not easier next week. They're playing two really good teams.
Yep.
But we'll see how that all happens and how it all goes down. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Trent Brown situation. What do you think of it? You can call us 702-889-5978. Attorney Michael Troiano will join us right after the break. You're listening to The Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Raider Nation rallies with us.
The mob is restless after 2 straight losses.
Get that 8th win. You might win one.
Attorney Michael Troiano provides clients with the legal strategy and professional representation needed in court. If you or a loved one find yourself in a legal situation and need a tough defense on your side, Michael Troiano can help. Call now for a free consultation, 702-843-5500, or learn more at TroianoVegasLaw.com.
Warning. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Your world moves fast. Welcome to Velo, the nicotine product that was made to keep up. Velo is the modern take on nicotine. They're pouches that are made for you, made for right now. Because with no spit, no smoke, and no hassles, there are no limits to where you can go. So whatever your destination is, Velo's ready. Velo, no limits. Visit Velo.com. Website restricted to age 21 plus tobacco consumers. Underage sale prohibited.
Are you drinking too much? Is that beer or two after work turning into 6 or 8? You know it's taking a toll on your liver and overall health, and it's probably already affecting your relationships and work performance. You have thought about quitting but don't want to attend those local meetings, and you know rehab is not for you.
I'm not an alcoholic. I just want to drink less.
Well, now there's a new way to get help cutting back on drinking without having to quit. Just get your life back. Life Back. That's Life BAC is an online doctor-supervised prescription program with medication that totally removes or significantly reduces cravings in 92% of people. The program is discreet, easy to follow, and costs less per month than a drink a day. Plus, it comes with a free doctor consultation and 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to lifebac.com and join our program or download the app today. Lifebac.com. Drink less. Live better. Lifebac.com.
Are you thinking about buying a rental property? Did you inherit a house and become an accidental landlord? Or maybe you're already a property investor. Whatever the case, you know that owning rental properties is smart, but managing them can be complicated and stressful. At Renters Warehouse, we think you deserve better. You deserve a partner to help you execute on your real estate investment strategy. You deserve a process that simplifies property management. And you deserve people who understand that your time is important and will do everything they can to give you more of it. Renters Warehouse is the rental property problem solver. We exist to save you time, money, and hassle, and put you on a path to financial freedom. We do it through our world-class property management services and through our exclusive real estate investment marketplace. You deserve more as a property investor. And with Renters Warehouse, you get it. Go to renterswarehouse.com right now for your free rental price analysis and your free investment property search. List, invest, rent, all under one roof at renterswarehouse.com. That's renterswarehouse.com.
Every mile counts for the 28,000 kids fighting the deadliest childhood cancer, pediatric brain tumors. You can help fight for these futures. Join the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation on October 20th at Town Square for the 15th annual Las Vegas Ride for Kids. Ride for Kids is the longest-running, most successful motorcycle charity event in the country. Ride with us and help find the cure for childhood brain cancer. Visit rideforkids.org to register today.
The Cowboys take on the Eagles this afternoon at 4:45 on
CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Cliff Branch, former of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
God bless the late Cliff Branch as he brings us back in from the break. Subject of this conversation is going to be the news that we got this week about Trent Brown. Trent Brown sued civilly for assault, battery, breach of non-material partnership. And this was alleged by his former girlfriend, Diora Marzette Sanders. He was sued in San Francisco. And joining us to talk about this is our legal eagle, and that is Michael Troiano, TroianoVegasLaw.com. From the most simple DUI to more complex criminal representation, make sure you check out TroianoVegasLaw.com. Michael, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing excellent. How are you guys doing?
Good. You have that look of a new dad on your face. We've talked about it here before that you are a new dad, but congratulations on that. And it gets easier. It takes a little time. I've been through it a few times.
One day at a time.
That's right. That's right. Okay, Michael. So let's go over this situation. Of course, you are a criminal defense attorney, and this kind of dances around it. But I know you're really familiar with the case. The lawyer in this case, representing Marzette Sanders against Trent Brown, Joaquin McCoy, also sued former NBA player Derrick Rose for sexual battery. Lost that to a jury trial. When you look at this situation where these crimes are being alleged, although they're not being adjudicated or he's not being arrested or there hasn't been much more than a simple police report once, how do you get around that? Does it impact a civil case when it's sort of alleged criminal activity, but there is no prosecution of that activity?
Anytime there's more documentation, it's going to be beneficial for the party. So the fact that there was not police reports in multiple of these alleged incidents is probably something that they're trying to address. I imagine her attorney is going to try to spin that like any good attorney would and say, well, he prevented her from seeking medical attention or filing police reports or whatever it may be. But sure, if you're sitting there on the defense side of that lawsuit, that's absolutely one of the first things you're bringing up is where's the documentation, where's the proof. If you read some of the police report and the complaint as far as the civil suit's concerned, it's some pretty serious allegations, and he's a large man, so I'd imagine that if he really did any of the things he's being accused of, it should have been documented fairly easily to put his hands on a woman or any person.
Well, and that's my question too, Michael, is that you have a situation, so yes, intimidation, all these things, especially, he is one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen, but when you have that, there's no way to get around if the victim doesn't report it and file a complaint or go to a police station and do it. There's no way around that, right? There has to be some sort of allegation from someone involved or a party involved in a criminal activity.
I mean, there's going to be some sort of evidence that's going to be produced as far as law enforcement is concerned. So I've handled cases where it's not just the victim who's accusing my client of some sort of misconduct. It's a neighbor, it's a friend. Every year, Thanksgiving, I get multiple cases where a Thanksgiving party goes way wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone's had
family,
everyone's had a little too much turkey and a little too many Coors Lights, and things get wild, and it's maybe grandma, whoever it is sitting around that's just sick of it. So it could be from any source. And in this day and age, police aren't going to sit there and second guess. They're going to take you to jail to cover their back end, because God forbid that they don't, and then their next call is that somebody's dead in that home. It's going to be a much bigger problem.
Right, and that to me is interesting, because you just think when somebody is assaulted, and for those folks out there who have been victims of domestic violence, they talk a lot about how sometimes it's hard to come forward because they're often doubted because they don't come forward. But there's, like you said, there's reasons for that. There's intimidation. There's all sorts of things that happen. So we'll see how that all happens and how it goes down. But in this case, too, when you talk about evidence, when you're giving, in a criminal trial, evidence is usually gathered by law enforcement, correct? For the most part. I mean, victims can also turn over what they have.
Yeah, generally.
But also, in a civil case, you don't. It's not guilty without reasonable doubt. It's guilty with a preponderance of evidence, right, or whatever it may be. In this case, though, without the criminal side being active, without the police doing investigations, is it more difficult to prove what they're alleging with evidence that just comes from the victim, if there is any?
Well, back to what we were discussing at the beginning, if you are her attorney, sure, you wish you had all that documentation from an independent police agency. So most of the evidence that they're going to be producing in their discovery is going to be coming from the victim, which obviously has a bias, right? She has an interest in this case financially, and that's going to be something that they're going to attempt to taint as far as the defense side is concerned. But we'll see what they have. Maybe she was smart. Maybe she did document this. Maybe there is photos and videos and other conversations regarding that they can put in front of a jury. But if it's simply just his word against hers with no other factors, I think it's going to be a big hill to climb, especially, again, back to physical violence. I read some of the statements he made, some of the nasty things he allegedly said to her. Okay, that is truly a he said, she said. But when you're talking about a grown man, and as you said, one of the biggest grown men you've ever seen, physically dominating and assaulting another person, let alone a woman, I'm not aware of her stature, there should be some sort of physical documentation, a photo, whatever it may be. She's not alleged, or he's not being accused of just simply being rude to her. He's accused of definitely assaulting her.
Yeah, so that makes it interesting to me as well. Again, we're talking to attorney Michael Troiano about the Trent Brown lawsuit filed this week, alleging battery, assault, breach of non-material partnership, which I think is just a domestic thing, probably around financial support, right?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Again, she's claiming, and it's not in writing, that they just had an oral or verbal agreement, if you will, saying, I'm going to have your children, I'm going to take care of them, I'm going to play wife, and if you read the language in there, she's going to be there for physical and emotional support. So I think we can all read between the lines there of what that agreement supposedly was.
Yeah. Now, Michael, with this too, is there, in these situations, is there any possibility of criminal charges coming after the fact, coming later? What's the statute of limitations? If I was assaulted a year ago in a domestic violence situation, which is deplorable, but if I was, what's the recourse criminally? How long can it go and you can file charges? Like in this case, can there be any charges?
Well, it depends what state it occurred. So if we're just using a hypothetical that something happened here in the state of Nevada, if it's a misdemeanor domestic violence battery charge, then the statute of limitations are 1 year. So the district attorney's office has 1 year from the date of the allegation. Now, if it's felony charges, if you are accused of choking or strangling or there's substantial bodily harm to the victim, then it's usually 3 years out that they have a little bit more time. And the more serious crimes, the lengthier the statute of limitations are. Murder, things like that, don't have statute of limitations in most states now.
So in this case, I know it was in, I think, Georgia and one other state, I think Florida. So in this case, though, so it could be 3 years because she does allege that he choked her at one point. So it could come. It could come if, for example, the victim came forward with some substantial evidence that local law enforcement or the district attorney felt was strong enough, they could move forward, correct?
Depending on her counsel's strategy in this particular case, they may or may not reach out. Again, it's all factual, right? What we're dealing with here, it's not set in some kind of world where 1 + 1 always equals 2. But assuming that's their strategy, what they would probably do is send over their evidence and a letter to law enforcement, trying to force their hand to do their job for them and initiate the investigation and make this a bigger thing than it already is at this point. And again, we don't know whether these accusations are true or not, but anytime there's a huge financial incentive, you kind of have to have your ears up and see where it goes.
Well, and her attorney's been down this road with several athletes before, not with much success. So you wonder the truth. But at the same time, domestic violence is a very serious issue. For folks out there listening who something happens on Thanksgiving, unintended, I know they can reach. First of all, if they find themselves in that unfortunate situation, you need to reach out to attorney Michael Troiano at TroianoVegasLaw.com. First of all, but second of all, what is that? What do you do? Is it always really when you talk to clients who may have been in that situation or alleged to be in that situation? Do you tell them moving forward, just in those situations, you just got to walk away, get out of there, or what do regular folks do? If this is a situation they're in, or if they're accused of this?
Sure. I mean, we all make mistakes. So, regular folks, I don't know. We've all done things in our life that we regret. But if you're in a situation where you are being accused of some sort of offense and you have contact with law enforcement, you got to understand everybody is put on this earth for a certain reason, and police officers generally are there to do a good job, and a good job to them is arresting someone and convicting them because they want to believe the victims. That's where their point of view comes from, and it's not helpful in 99.9, or I'll just make it 100% of situations to speak to a police officer if you're being accused of a crime. Now, if you're trying to help somebody or be assisted, then they're part of our community and they should be respected, but their job is to arrest you. My job is to make sure that goes away and that you don't have lifelong consequences for something that you potentially did not do.
That's right. So if you find yourself in that unfortunate situation or another situation, you make a mistake, you get behind the wheel after drinking too much or whatever you may be doing, make sure that you call attorney Michael Troiano and check out TroianoVegasLaw.com because really, it's not that we don't support the police, but in that situation, you want to talk to your lawyer before you say anything else. So, Michael Troiano, thank you for coming in and explaining this Trent Brown situation to us. And give everybody your phone number again, too, so they can get you that way.
Sure. You can reach me at the office at 702-843-5500.
All right, Michael Troiano, a proud supporter here on Silver and Black today. We're going to step aside when we come back. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton will talk about the AFC West race and the situation in Los Angeles with the NFL. It is not good, folks, and we will get the latest on that. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
A new coach.
We knocked it out of the
Sports Radio. The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with a radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, which of course we added, if you missed the news earlier, top of the show. We will also have a Tuesday night show, Silver and Black tonight. So we're expanding for your Raider goodness.
How
Hopefully, it's
did
goodness.
you come up with the name? That's creative.
I know it's total. It took a long time
We had like a
to come up with that
2-week
name.
think tank.
But listen, we are going to shift gears
Brainstorming.
now. We're going to talk about the AFC West race. And we're going to bring in now the man responsible for me even being on the radio, because listening to him, that's what I wanted to do.
Yep.
Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, of course, on Twitter at Hacksaw1090. Make sure you check out his website, leehacksawhamilton.com. Always has good insight and opinions on the world of sports. Lee, thanks for joining us this morning on Silver and Black Today.
Good morning, gentlemen. You ready for some football?
We are. And I'll tell you what, Lee, this AFC West race, I think everybody looked at it, of course, before the year began and said, okay, you have the Chiefs coming off the year they had last year, and, of course, Pat Mahomes being the MVP. And then you had the Chargers, who looked pretty good coming into the season. And now we stand here with Mahomes out for at least 3 weeks. I think it'll be a little bit longer at 5-2. The Chargers have been incredibly disappointing, lots of injuries, underperforming at 2-4. The Broncos, let's face it, they just need to rebuild. And then there's the Raiders, who are sometimes okay and sometimes struggling. This race seems to me to be more open and anything could happen. Am I fooling myself, or are the Chiefs still the team to beat in this division?
Well, let's understand that over a 16-game schedule, you're going to have lots of changes in the landscape of divisional races. You're going to have lots of changes in your teams, and that's what's transpired with a whole number of these different teams just in the AFC West alone. To get to your base point, let's wait and see what happens in the next 10 days in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes had the obviously dislocated kneecap. They believe there was no bone damage, there was no fracture, there was no tear of the patella tendon, which could have been catastrophic, no ligament damage. However, Kansas City is taking him back in for a second opinion, different doctor, tomorrow. They just want to be sure. Now, if he's out 3 weeks, and that's what the standard procedure is with something like this, he's going to have to come back and he's going to wear a heavy knee brace. So does that slow down his mobility? Does that change his game in essence? Does it change some of the explosiveness and the dynamics of what Kansas City does on offense? I tend to think it probably does. I just don't think he'll be a runaround quarterback at that point in time. And see, that's a problem because Kansas City's offensive line, to me, is still not very strong, very consistent. And what made his game so dynamic was his ability to move the pocket, throw on the run, and even break containment and run for first downs. Well, with a knee brace and with that injury, you're going to have to be very cautious. The other wild card in this whole Patrick Mahomes story is what does Kansas City do at quarterback in the next 3 weeks, or is an insurance policy going forward if Mahomes is not vintage Mahomes when he comes back? Think about this. Trading deadline is October 29th. There are a wide variety of guys you could rent in a trade. How would Eli Manning, who's never going to play again in New York, look in a Kansas City uniform? And you may laugh at that and say why would Eli Manning go there? Well, Joe Montana went there, and look what happened. It was successful. Yep. So Manning is out there. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a rental from Miami, which is in a hopeless situation. There are some other veteran backup quarterbacks that maybe you could acquire for a fourth-round pick or a fifth-round pick that could tide you over till you really find out what Mahomes' status is. So Kansas City's a very different football team this morning than they were Labor Day weekend when the last time we chatted. And I think the other factor in the equation is Kansas City's defense has been a big disappointment. The thing, they overhauled everything. They got rid of their veteran Pro Bowl players. They fired their coordinator. They brought Steve Spagnuolo in. The one thing, it just stuns me watching Kansas City close up. They have no team speed on defense at all.
No, yes.
And I'm really stunned. And I think they missed the leadership, and I think they missed the toughness of Eric Berry, who obviously had bad injuries and then had the terrible situation with cancer, and he's no longer with the franchise. So just not quite the same Kansas City team. But this bears watching. What's the medical report on Monday when they do the second medical opinion on the quarterback? And do they do something between now and October 29th to see if they can rent a veteran that could be a difference maker? I'm kind of fascinated with how this could all work out. And one other comment, I know I gave you a long answer here. One other comment on the Mahomes situation. You talk about how cruel the NFL is. He suffered 2 injuries in 3 weeks on friendly fire. Think about that.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
He injured his ankle when he got leg whipped by one of his own offensive linemen who was falling down, and then he got injured at the bottom of the pile on the quarterback sneak when two of his linemen fell on him when he was at the bottom of the pile. So
amazing.
Just a fluke situation, but Kansas City is not quite the same personality of team now than they were prior. Got firepower, no doubt about that. Do they have the right trigger man? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what they do at the trade line if they go get a quarterback. Eli Manning could manage the game for them and do a good job, so it's a fascinating discussion. Again, we're talking to Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, leehacksawhamilton.com. Chaz, you had a question?
Hey, Lee, it's Chaz. I guess the consensus around the Raiders was maybe this was going to be a rebuild year, but now we're seeing a little bit more than that. In your personal opinion, do you think maybe this is time they turn the corner and make a run at the AFC West title, or are they still kind of in rebuild mode and the Chiefs will come out of this and still win the division, no problem?
You're doing this talk show with your heart, aren't you? Let's be honest here. This is a long rebuild. They have made a series of mistakes. They have wasted a lot of draft picks on guys that have not panned out.
Yep.
I sit here, and I'm based in San Diego. I sit here and I talk to NFL people, and I network with all the guys in the media that cover their teams on a beat basis. Nobody has held the Raiders accountable for pissing away draft picks. I mean, if you recall, this all started when Gruden's first year when they traded number 3 for drug-troubled wide receiver Martavis Bryant of Pittsburgh, who's out of the league.
Yep.
And then they proceeded to trade a 3 and a 5 for Antonio Brown out of Pittsburgh. At first glance, you thought this was going to be a spectacular deal, and he self-destructed. And now they were forced to make another trade of another draft pick to get another wide receiver. The Vontaze Burfict acquisition has blown up in their face, and now he's gone. And I always felt he was going to be an integral part of what they were trying to rebuild on defense in terms of athleticism and toughness and passion. So a lot of the moves that Gruden wanted to make have not panned out. I just question why nobody in the media, be it Las Vegas, be it Oakland, is going after Gruden over these player personnel decisions that I think have, quote, set the rebuilding thing back. No doubt that they found some players. Josh Jacobs is a gem. We talked about that Labor Day weekend when the season started. I'd run and catch. I think he's vibrant, but I don't know that he should be getting 30 touches a game because I think he won't finish a season with that kind of workload. Darren Waller, tight end, that's a pretty good football player that they uncovered, but there's a risk there because of all the stuff that he was involved in off the field as a younger player. You always have to be a little bit concerned about, quote, relapses, even though at this point in time the young man looks like he's really gathered his life back in, and maybe football has saved his life from all the problems that he had before because of the structure and the leadership that organizations can offer. And defensively, they're pretty young. They play hard. They got speed. I don't know that they have enough veteran expertise on the defensive side of the football. So as long as Derek Carr is upright and they can move the football and stay free of injury, I think Raiders are going to be more than competitive. They could well be a second-place team, but sorry, I can't buy your sales pitch. They're going to chase down Kansas City.
No, I mean, hey, that's what we said to begin the year, and Raider fans, they're excited because of the new leadership, and you're right. I think you look at the wide receiver situation in particular. John Gruden and the Raiders have not succeeded there at all, and with questionable trades, they took the high risk, high reward guys, and it's all backfired on them, including with Burfict, who was playing very good up until that point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Okay, Lee, when we come back, we're going to step aside. We're going to keep you through because we want to talk about the mess that is the Los Angeles Chargers and also the NFL overall in Los Angeles. So when we come back, Lee Hamilton will talk about that. He's been on top of that story since the beginning, since the Chargers left San Diego, which, of course, they never should have, but they did. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to The Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
When you need inside info on your Raiders, you'll find it right here.
I do really think as far as Derek's concerned, he needs to learn a little bit more patience, have a little bit more patience with the offense.
All the time, it's all about the details. And we'll watch the film. There's a lot of meat on that bone out there.
Las Vegas' only all Raiders talk show, Silver and Black Today.
Just in, the NFL announcing it has suspended Raiders linebacker Vontaze Burfict for the rest of the season.
Your Las Vegas home for complete Raiders and NFL coverage. CBS Sports Radio 1140.
NMLS number 3030.
The Cowboys take on the Eagles this afternoon at 4:45 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, and we are joined, as we were just before the break, by Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Of course, check out LeeHacksawHamilton.com and follow him on Twitter at Hacksaw1090. You can follow him on Twitter. And we are going to talk now with Lee about, I think, which is a big problem for the NFL. Of course, that is their presence in Los Angeles. Being gone for 21 years, they come back with two teams. One made sense, one did not. And Lee, I want to start with the most egregious situation in L.A., and that, of course, is the complete debacle that is the Los Angeles Chargers. You look at attendance. Of course, the Pittsburgh game this past week was an embarrassment to not just the Spanos goofs, but also to the NFL. The TV ratings, not good for the Chargers in the Los Angeles area, and the PSL sales are also just a complete mess. What do they do?
Well, they created themselves a significant credibility issue. History will write that for the first time in 30 years in San Diego, there was a proposal on the table to build a new stadium. I've lived here for 30-plus years. I was a longtime voice of the Chargers for 13 years. I witnessed a lot of incompetence in City Hall, all types of troubled mayors, money trouble in the city, also witnessed the incompetence of the Spanos family and some of their football decisions. But just 2 years ago, with a new mayor, the city and the county put together a proposal that would have allowed this to go on the ballot and build a new stadium. And I think it would have been approved by the community because it was a consortium of city money, county money, the NFL G4 fund money, and contributions from the Spanos family on the tract of land. They didn't have to go buy land. They had the land. They were going to build it on the same location where the current stadium is. And after they worked so hard for the better part of 6 to 8 months to put this proposal together, the Spanos family refused to go to the negotiating table. And then at the last minute, the Spanoses came up and said, we'd rather build downtown. We're going to put our own proposal on the ballot. And that was fraudulent because it was never going to pass downtown. There wasn't enough room. It just made no sense at all. And both things wound up failing to get the enough votes to get it approved. And then the Chargers, who I firmly in my heart believe always wanted to go to L.A. to drive the value of the franchise up, they went to the NFL and said, see, what was on the November ballot did not pass. We want to move, and the league let them move. And now they go to L.A., and they're not accepted. I mean, within the first days of them coming to L.A., the editorials in the Los Angeles newspaper just criticize them, ridicule them, mock them, etc. And they kept making bad decision after bad decision. And they go in as a tenant in Stan Kroenke's brand-new stadium. Kroenke is worth an enormous amount of money. The Spanos family is one of the poorer owners in the league. And this has not worked out well, despite the fact the team has had a couple of winning seasons there under their new coach, Anthony Lynn, and I think their general manager, Tom Telesco, has done a good job. They've not been accepted in L.A. And, last Sunday, what we saw is a prime example of the mistake that has been made by the ownership and then I think in the bigger picture by the National Football League, and it's all dictated by greed. But last Sunday, the Rams played over 75,000 at the L.A. Coliseum for a Sunday afternoon game against the 49ers. The Chargers had less than 27,000 for their home game against Pittsburgh, and the color of the day in that football stadium was black and gold. 90% of the fans were Steeler fans wearing their gear. Players got really upset. Players started to be critical of the organization. What have you done to us? At the end of the day, the Chargers are the only team in the league that plays 16 road games. They have no home field advantage.
Yeah.
And the NFL came away very embarrassed. I was told by an NFL league source that they wanted to put the Steelers, the Chargers, pretty good rivals, on Sunday Night Football for the whole nation to see how exciting it was to be in this smaller venue and how electric it was, never, ever imagining that the stadium would be overrun by Pittsburgh fans. And I've been on a number of different talk shows around the nation this past week, and guys have asked me, how is this happening? Well, when they went to L.A., they were not welcome, talking about the Chargers. They went to L.A., they couldn't sell season tickets. Hardly anybody bought any. What they did, went to L.A., they sold all their season tickets to, quote, brokers. And those brokers have turned around and have sold all the tickets that they got access to Steeler fan, Packer fan, right, Bronco fan, Buffalo fan, Kansas City fan. And the Chargers have no home field advantage. So this thing has been an abomination from the absolute start, and it's really unfair to the players. The emotion in our community in San Diego is we would wish Phillip Rivers would go 16-0 and get the chance to go to a Super Bowl. But on the other street corner, everybody wishes that Spanos goes 0-16, never wins another game in the history of the NFL. The bitterness here is unbelievable.
It really is. And Lee, that's
and the TV TV ratings are terrible.
Yeah.
They used to get 34 ratings in San Diego. They get 14 ratings now, and most of that is hate watching. And in L.A., there's 4 games on TV in L.A. every Sunday. They are the 4th rated game every weekend in the NFL. And what's going to happen when they go into the shiny new stadium next year that we're going to watch on TV or maybe go see a game up there? The Rams are going to draw their 72,000 because the Rams, that's the L.A. Heritage team. The Chargers are going to draw 21,000. And how's that going to look around the nation, too? Unbelievable.
It is. And Lee, this is when you talk to your league sources, too, I look at the Los Angeles market situation overall, even with the Rams, and I think that the NFL grossly miscalculated how they would be received back in the market because you're talking about a full generation without an NFL team in Los Angeles in their hometown, 21 years. In that time, the Lakers dominated the scene, of course. The NFL did nothing in Los Angeles during those years. Between 95 and 2015, 31 preseason games, international games in London, Mexico, everywhere, nothing in L.A. And what you're seeing, I think, I saw a description in an L.A. Times story about L.A. We were just all in London for the Raider game, and we saw some Raider fans there, some Bears fans, but then the rest of the fans were kind of everybody. They had jerseys from every team, And that's the description we're getting from L.A. There's not really an affinity. The Raiders were the last team to be there in 95. And in fact, NFL data shows 1 in 4 fans in Los Angeles identify themselves as Raiders fan, which is going to help us here in Las Vegas because they're going to come up and visit on the weekends. But overall, what is the NFL, do you think, going to do? Do the Chargers, where do they go? Are they stuck there and it's just going to have to take a generation or two to get people familiar with it? Or are they going to take some of that money and get them back to San Diego or get them somewhere else?
Well, I don't buy, first of all, the theory that the NFL in L.A. is not succeeding, because it is succeeding. And L.A. is Tinseltown. And this team that the Rams have is pretty good. And if this team continues to win, and their whole roster is made up of pretty good young players, especially on the skill side, they're going to continue to draw. And because people in Los Angeles attach themselves to winners. That's why the Lakers have been so great, and now the Clippers might be about ready to challenge the Lakers and surpass them. When the L.A. Kings were winning their Stanley Cups, you could not get a Kings ticket. Dodgers draw almost $4 million a season.
Yeah, incredible.
Because the franchise is good. So I guess I'll diffuse what you're saying about, is L.A. a good market? I think it's a good market if it's a good product. In terms of the Chargers, I floated the theory, could there be an NFL intervention? But historically, the NFL has never revoked the ownership of a franchise unless somebody did something of unbelievable significance that cast the league in bad light. The DeBartolo family was removed as owners of the 49ers back in the day because Eddie DeBartolo Jr. was involved in a bribery situation in Louisiana. He was forced to sell that team. The Eagles' ownership was revoked. Leonard Tost had severe acute gambling problems and had enormous debt. The league stepped in and took the franchise away from him. But aside from that, the league has never disciplined anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't think the league would ever discipline anybody for incompetence. And for them to extract the Chargers out of L.A., it's not feasible because you've got all these contractual agreements with all these sponsorships and all these businesses and all these vendors, and it would expose the NFL to massive litigation. Now, could there be pressure points upon the Spanos family to sell? We keep hearing through the grapevine, yes.
Hey, we got a hard stop coming up, so I appreciate you being with us, and we'll get you back on as this situation continues, and also for an update on the AFC West. Check out LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Hacksaw, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lee.
My pleasure,
Thanks,
guys.
Lee.
We'll chat again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. When we come back, we're going to look ahead, and we're going to talk about the Raiders Stadium. Tommy White, Local 872. How's that roof going up? We're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio.
The law office of Michael Troiano is a proud supporter of all things Las Vegas, including its people, specializing in legal representation for all criminal defense matters ranging from misdemeanors to the most serious felonies. Attorney Michael Troiano provides clients with the legal strategy and professional representation needed in court. If you or a loved one find yourself in a legal situation and need a tough defense on your side, Michael Troiano can help. Call now for a free consultation, 702-843-5500, or learn more at TroianoVegasLaw.com.
Enough with the fees already. Bad check fees, credit card fees, late rent fees, and those huge payday loan fees. We can help and safely lend you up to $5,000 in minutes to cover your payments and avoid those fees. You don't need a checking account, perfect credit, or collateral, and it's 100% free to apply and see how much you qualify for. If you need the loan for 1 day, 1 week, or 1 year, it doesn't matter at the DLC. You only pay interest for the time you have the loan out. There are no application fees or prepayment penalties. Nothing, really. We offer small weekly payments and make it easy to pay your loan back because of our fantastic rates. Join over 250,000 satisfied customers and let us help you out. It's okay to need a loan and borrow money as long as you're getting a fair deal.
Licensed by the Nevada Financial Institutions Division. Customer must meet the normal loan qualifications. To review loan qualifications, visit us at don'tbebroke.com. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
Saturday Sports Beat comes your way each week right here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 and on radio.com from 8 to 10 a.m. Hi, I'm Tony Cardasco. Join me as I provide insight, news, opinions, and updates on all the Las Vegas sports beats. The Raiders, Golden Knights, Rebels, Aviators, Lights, Aces, and much, much more. Saturday Sports Beat starting at 8 a.m. on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Broadcasting live from the Finley Chevrolet Studios, home of the... Your home for Nevada Wolfpack Sports and the NFL. KXST AM North Las Vegas. KXTE HD3 Pahrump Las Vegas. A radio.com sports station.
Sports Flash. I'm Greg Caserta, and this report is sponsored by Geico. Great news. There's a quick way you could save money. Switch to Geico. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Well, the NFL is an hour away from Week 7 kickoffs, and Jalen Ramsey's hoping to be the missing piece to the Rams' defense as he gets ready for his debut in Atlanta against Julio Jones this afternoon. But the story doesn't just end there. According to Adam Schefter, the All-Pro has promised the Rams that he won't hold out if the sides can't agree to a long-term deal this offseason. Next year would be the final year of his contract. In the meantime, the Rams are 3-3 and scuffling a little. The Falcons are even worse off, limping in at 1-5. Eagles and Cowboys get together in Arlington later on for Sunday Night Football. First place in the NFC East is on the line. Cowboys COO Stephen Jones shot down any suggestion of a midseason coaching move in regards to head coach Jason Garrett when asked about it by NFL Network earlier this week. Jason La Canfora reported the Niners are looking to add a wide receiver ahead of the trade deadline. They have not been linked to Antonio Brown, but he also added that teams are still interested in the wide receiver. He could be returning to the league after the deadline. San Fran and New England, the only two undefeated teams left in the league. The Patriots visiting the Jets on Monday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes dislocated his right kneecap on Thursday night, another QB down. And with no damage to the knee, he actually could be back for the Chiefs in 3 weeks or less, according to Mr. Schefter. The Chiefs, in the meantime, will go with Matt Moore at quarterback before the reigning MVP is ready to come back. Giants and Cardinals, it'll be a matchup of the top two quarterbacks taken in the draft, Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. Big Blue getting back both Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram on offense. Texans 4-2. They're visiting the Colts at 3-2. Those are the top two teams in the AFC South. Second batch of games this afternoon. Chargers and Titans both 2-4 as Tennessee goes with Ryan Tannehill in place of Marcus Mariota. Lamar Jackson and the 4-2 Ravens drop in on Russell Wilson, and the 5-1 Seahawks should be a good one there. Vikings and Lions in Detroit. You've got the Jags visiting 0-6 Cincinnati and the 0-5 Dolphins up in Buffalo. Mitch Trubisky back for the Bears. Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints trying to fend off the Chicago defense, but no running back Alvin Kamara or tight end Jared Cook. And the next day peep poll in college football should certainly get a makeover. Looked like number 6 Wisconsin was looking ahead to next week's game against 4th-ranked Ohio State. And the Buckeyes lost for the first time on a last-second field goal to Illinois. Number 7 Penn State moving on up. They beat number 16 Michigan 28-21. Plus you had losses for number 14 Boise State, 17th-ranked Arizona State, number 22 Missouri, and number 25 Washington. World Series starting on Tuesday in Houston. The Astros open up as the biggest favorite since the Red Sox swept the Rockies in 2007. The Nationals coming to town Tuesday. I'm Greg Caserta.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, rolling into hour number 2 on this football Sunday. Of course, if you missed the news, we are also going to be coming to you Tuesday nights from 6 to 7 with Silver and Black Tonight, starting October 29th. So we appreciate your support. And someone also we appreciate very much joins us now, and that is Tommy White from the Laborers Local 872. He's the business manager, secretary, treasurer, and of course, his men and women helping build the Raiders Allegiant Stadium. Tommy, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing good, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time on your Sunday. Listen, so the future home of the Raiders really taking shape. I think we're about, 65% done. The fabricated glass panels are going up. People can kind of really see it. How long until all that glass is up and that thing is enclosed?
I would probably say early December. You're going to see the glass, all the glass in the the fabricated metal that's going up around the stadium is going to be done. Then you're going to wind up with the roof. Probably be completed by January, if not sooner.
Wow. So it's coming quick.
So, I mean, it's all coming along. We're already starting to do the landscaping out there now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put a bunch of palm trees in, and
Yeah.
so I'm making it look more like a stadium instead of still a gravel parking lot.
No, yeah, and that roof, that's what we really wanted to talk to you about today, because we've had a bunch of listeners who've written in and said, hey, can you have somebody on to talk about it? And that roof, so it's a cable system, polymer surface, 100 stainless steel cables. They're about 2.5 to 3 inches around, some as long as 800 feet. 18 inches of cable, by the way, weighs 80 pounds.
Wow.
So 1.5 foot of cable. Talk about, Tommy, how that's all coming together in the process and where they're at now in raising those cables so that they can put that polymer roof in.
So those cables are actually there's like you said, 2 inches round. They're 2-inch round cables all put together. I believe there's 10, which when you kind of put them all together, it makes one big. So they're anywhere from I believe 6 to 8 inches completely round. When there's a lot of cables intertwined in there. So
yeah.
Let's see. We have them spread out. Some of them are spread out on the field already, and then what we do is we raise them up. It all has to be calculated and done at the same time, and I mean we have it set up to where we have drop nets for any of the workers that are out, working on this system, because they have to crawl across those cables.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool setup. We got a lot of rock climbers out there.
Again, we're talking to Tommy White from the Laborers Local 872. He's the business manager, secretary, treasurer. He's getting us up to speed on stadium construction and specifically at the request of our listeners about the roof. Now, Tommy, you talked about this. There's that hydraulic system that's going to raise all these cables and then put the roof surface on it. And you talked about safety nets. One of the things that has been remarkable, and I'm knocking on wood too, is just how all of you have done in making sure that this is a safe work environment. Because first of all, you want your people safe. Second, you don't want the project to have to stop because of an injury or something like that. The continued focus on safety is really big. How does that compare to other projects? I mean, you've built the Stratosphere Tower, you've built City Center. Yeah. How has that been in the focus on safety?
Well, listen, over the years, times have changed. They actually don't let us construction workers do some of the crazy stuff that we were allowed to do back then. So OSHA's on top of everything, but I got to give a lot of credit to the Raiders executive team and Icon and Mortensen and McCarthy, and they really stayed on top of the safety. Nobody wants a loss out there. And I remember years ago we used to calculate, when we used to look at a project, we actually would calculate a loss into the project.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's the way they used to do insurance back then. So I think they got away from that now, and we really have like a really safe crew out there. I mean, you had a couple of, banged up hands. Guys hit their hands with their hammers, or a guy gets his finger squeezed in between a couple of 2x4s, but nothing major.
Yeah.
But that's credit to the workers for listening to what's going on. It's credit to the general contractors that actually have pushed the safety program, and I know Mark Davis, he did not want anyone hurt on his job site. So, and it's him too. He goes out there, he talks to the workers. He wants, he tells the workers, work safe. You want to go home at the end of the day. So, got to give a lot of credit to the man. He's on site a lot.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. We had one of our viewers on YouTube ask about that and wanting me to talk to you about that. And I've been out obviously to several of those where Mark's out there and they're feeding all the folks working on the project. And that's the one thing I've felt when I'm there is because the Raiders have always been a family organization. The men and women building the stadium and your members, they know that this is a special project and it's a legacy project for them. But the way they've been treated and the way Mark goes out, and it's a genuine affection for them. When he talks about them just as though he sees them in the office every day and has a personal relationship with them.
Oh yeah, he'll go to a Golden Knights hockey game, and on his way from the hockey game, leaving the hockey game, he'll go stop by the stadium and go hang out with the workers. He does. He actually does, and he loves being around the fans. He loves being around the workers that are building that stadium, and he loves talking shop with them about how the project is going, and how it is to be working on that project. So, I mean, listen, you don't see that from a lot of owners. You don't even see that from a lot of owners on the casinos,
right?
That we built out here, and to have Mark just show up out of nowhere, and it's not like a scheduled time he's going to show up. He just might, come out one day and say, "Hey, I'm going over to the stadium. I want to go talk to my peeps," and that's he refers to the guys out there as his peeps because he really has a bond with the workers on the stadium, and he will spend all day long talking with them, signing hats and doing autographs and taking pictures. And I mean, I've been around the man a lot, and I've never seen him turn anyone away.
Yeah, he's also, again, we're talking to Tommy White, business manager, secretary, treasurer at the Labor's Local 872. And Tommy, that's the thing. Mark has become a staple at all sporting events here. He's, of course, like you said, right behind the goal. If you watch the Golden Knights games on TV, you're going to see him. And then also courtside at the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA. And so Mark's really fallen in love with the scene here in Las Vegas and really genuinely is excited about getting into the community, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He, I got to get him out to a couple of baseball games next season around. But, yeah, I mean, he loves all the sports teams in Las Vegas. And he listen, a lot of people talked about the Raiders just coming to Vegas and, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But you can see from Mark, he wants to be part of the community. He goes places. He doesn't hide from anyone. He's right there in public. He don't walk around with an entourage. He really loves the fans, and he loves the fans of the Golden Knights. He loves the fans of the Aces. So just having him around and being part of the community just makes it all that better.
Yeah, and he really, I see him taking pictures all the time because I see people posting pictures, people I don't know, but he's always taking the time to set aside some time and the effort to get to know people here in Las Vegas, and that's a big deal, especially for an NFL. And a lot of NFL owners are not accessible to folks, but he is. So, Tommy, now with the stadium, you talked about this it being fully enclosed maybe by January. Is that really the next big milestone, is to get that roof up and then you have all the glass on the outside and then it'll be enclosed from any kind of elements or any kind of issues with weather?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're already starting to build out, some of the lower level suites, right? So drywall's in, air conditioning's in, electrical's going in. There's a lot more being done inside the stadium than what people think. I mean, people still look at the stadium as, it's just a shell. They're never going to be finished. There's a lot more going on inside than what you can see. And, once the roof goes on, all it's going to do is speed up how fast we can get the inside done. The date is still, July 30th. I'm sticking to that date, although I keep saying June. They don't want me to say that. But, we're going to be open on time. Once these cables go up, and you're going to see the helicopters out there taking the overhead view and looking down on it. I know we've already done the trays for the fields. So it's like any project, okay? So once you start seeing landscaping going in on the outside,
right,
you're getting to the end, right? And we've already started putting palm trees out there. So between getting the stadium done and getting the training center done, we're both going to finish on time. And, it's just going to be great for the fans and great for Las Vegas. And,
oh, yeah.
We're really looking forward to, giving this to the fans. So it's going to be a great experience.
Well, and it's been a great thing for the people of Las Vegas and for folks who work for a living, especially in the trades, because they've been able to work on this project. And that's why there was tax money involved that put people to work. It's been a huge project, and there are other projects. You guys are really, really busy with the Sphere and Resorts World and all that stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time, Tommy, and we'll get you on again real soon.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Go Raiders. Yeah, pull up another win, right?
Yes. That's right. All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
Tommy White, Labor's Local 872 business manager and secretary treasurer. All right, we're going to step aside and pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to look at keys to today's game between the Raiders and the Packers. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Raider Nation rallies with us.
The mob is restless after 2 straight losses.
Get that 8th win. You might win one or get one here, make yourself 9-7 or something like that. The possibility of getting in a wild card. Who knows?
Welcome back. Las Vegas' only all Raiders talk show, Silver and Black today.
The Oakland Raiders select Josh Jacobs, running back.
Knock on wood if they're with me. Your Las Vegas home for complete Raiders and NFL coverage. CBS Sports Radio 1140.
The Cowboys take on the Eagles this afternoon at 4:45 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to the Silver and Black today.
Oh, yes, you are. And soon you can listen to the Silver and Black tonight. That's right. If you missed the news at the top of the show, we are adding a second show at your request. That's right. Everybody wanted a post-game show But we can't quite do that yet. But what we can do is talk with you in prime time on Tuesdays, which is a dead day in the NFL, as you know. Tuesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 and streaming everywhere and anywhere on the radio.com app, where we will talk about that Sunday's game. You can call in, get your frustration or your elation off your chest, and we will talk Raider football on Tuesdays and Sundays now. So big thanks to Entercom and CBS Sports Radio 1140 for showing the confidence in that. Kelly Kreiner has some updates on today's game, some breaking news, as Lee would say, off the sports wire.
Yes.
Yeah, the sports wire, those good old days. But yeah, the actives and inactives have come out for the both Packers and Raiders at this point. And with both MVS and Geronimo Allison are active for the Packers, which could be, you don't know how much they're going to play. You don't know how much they're going to be able to do,
right?
Because they're both, pretty dinged up. But with Allison, obviously fine with the concussion or he wouldn't be out there. MVS a little nicked up. That's a big for the Packers because I actually made the point last night talking to a Packer fan in my bar that we were watching the Alabama game. And Devonta Smith is the number 4 wide receiver at Bama right now. I would take him over any wide receiver either one of these teams are putting on the field today.
Right.
That's how banged up and just bad the wide receiving cores are right now at this point. So that is huge for the Packers. And Brown is going to be inactive for the Raiders.
No Trent Brown.
Yeah, that is a monster.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I wish I could be known by just 3 initials. But my 3 initials are bad, especially as you age. My initials are SAG. So, hey, how you doing, SAG? Screen Actors Guild. Now, sometimes I used to have it on my shirts, embroidered when I had to wear suits and stuff. And people are like, oh, are you in the Screen Actors Guild?
Yeah.
Sure. No. But, okay, thank you for that, Kelly. Good update. Not good news about Trent Brown. That's really a big loss for the Raiders. Not saying they can't overcome it, but it's going to be really difficult. They needed all their weapons to, I think, stay in this game. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's look at keys to the games, guys. I want to look at this, and I'm going to start with one that I think is pretty obvious and is impacted by Kelly's news about Trent Brown being inactive, and that is this Josh Jacobs versus the Packers defense. Okay, Green Bay has allowed 664 yards, that's 24th in the NFL, and 7 touchdowns to running backs so far in 2019. They've also allowed 35 receptions for 280 yards and 1 touchdown. So I'm thinking Josh Jacobs has to have a big day, and not only running the ball, but also coming out of that backfield with the Raiders still a little thin at wide receiver. Yes, they have Waller, and yes, they made a trade for a wide receiver, but they're just not there with the receiving core. So Josh Jacobs has got to take some of that role. You guys agree?
He will, and Zay Jones is also an inactive day, so that trade,
he is.
there you
go.
For the
trade
wide
does
receiver
nothing for them.
Does nothing for him.
Great.
Yeah, but no, I mean, he's going to have to be the focal point of the offense because, they've
now with the Trent Brown injury, right? They're going to have to get the ball out a little bit faster, and hopefully they get the ball to Jacobs 5-6 times because he can make moves. He can make a lot of things happen.
Yeah, and he's going to have to be the focal. Like I said, he's going to have to be the focal point of the offense because the one thing the Packers, they're a little susceptible to the run. Their secondary, it's young. They're kind of boom or bust, but they're going to be able to make plays, and I think they're going to be able to shut down the passing game today with relative ease.
Well, that's what I was hoping was Carr would get a few deep shots down the field and kind of open up, just kind of show what he's got because we really haven't seen that from Carr yet. But now with Trent Brown being out, they're probably going to have to go with that quick, the way he's been doing it all season, just getting the ball out really quick. And
the Packers spent all their free agent money on that pass rush this year,
yep.
And it's proven to be money well spent at this point because the defense, like you look at the numbers, their defense has played a lot better than the numbers show because they've had kind of that bend don't break type, that philosophy this year. They're going to give up some yards, but they're not giving up a lot of points.
Well, last week's game against Detroit was a perfect example. They gave up 200-plus yards in the first quarter and then only 90 for the rest of the game. So, like you said, bend don't break. They'll give up a little bit, but then when they tighten the screws, they're really effective, and we'll see how it plays out today.
Well, and one of the other things I think they have to do is they got to win the turnover game. Packers have 5 turnovers and 0 takeaways in the last 2 home games.
Right.
So they've struggled at home creating turnovers. So the Raiders have to. Now, yes, it would be great, and they need to create turnovers, but they also need to protect the ball. So this is where Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, they really need to make sure that they don't give the ball to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, because that, Kelly, would be disaster.
Yeah, Rodgers is always going to give you 1 or 2 shots at a ball every game. You know, he's still got that gunslinger mentality to where I can throw this ball anywhere I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be an opportunity or two out there. It's whether or not the Raiders are able to capitalize on that or not.
Yeah, and they're really just going to have to get pressure on him and just try to disrupt his timing. You know, that's the one thing with him.
Yeah.
If he's sitting back in a clean pocket, he's going to pick you apart, no problem.
And that, I would say that's the thing. If he has time, this could be over quick.
Yeah.
And Bakhtiari is one of the best left tackles in football. So I mean, when the offensive line for them's healthy and playing well, they're gonna, he's gonna have his time. Running backs, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, decent backs. That's not really something that you're too worried about. And talk about the turnover battle. If there's one person that's not scared to give up the football, it's Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're going to go to the phones now, and Wally wants to talk about the Raider-Packers game. Right. Wally, how you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Doing good, man. What's up? What do you think about this game today?
Hey, I just want to say thanks for getting that guy on to talk about the stadium. I was looking for a little more technical info, but that's okay. Yeah, I think we need to just get out, run the ball down their throats, and get up on them 7-0 or something. Because if we fall behind 14-0, it's going to be ball game real early.
Yeah, I think Wally, I think you're right. The Raiders have actually done a pretty good job getting off to quick starts. It's the second quarter that seems to bite them. Sometimes the third quarter as well, guys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you got to get out to a quick start, and again, you got to make sure you protect the ball. And you're going to have to run it effectively. I mean, you just have to today. So I think Derek Carr will actually have a pretty good game today and probably a big day. Hopefully. But if he does, it's only because they're able to run the ball.
Is Jackson going to play today?
Jackson?
Gabe Jackson.
Oh, Gabe Jackson. No, I haven't. We don't have indication he's active.
He wasn't listed on the inactives, but
right.
whether or not he's actually going to.
Yeah,
be
they said he practiced pretty good and he looked pretty good in practice this week. So it'll be up to the coaching staff to see if he gets in there. Now with the Trent Brown, maybe they'll do a little moving around with it, but
yeah.
I think it's even more imperative now that he plays.
Yep.
Because you're losing such a big piece.
Mm-hmm. No, it is, absolutely. All right, well, we're going to say goodbye to Wally. Wally, man, thanks for calling. Enjoy the game today.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for getting that guy on, man.
You got it, brother. Take care. Wally, one of our most loyal and great listeners, so we appreciate him calling in to us. All right, with a couple minutes we have left, guys. The other thing I think, too, is the Raiders at defensive back. The defensive backfield really needs to shine today. You talked about the Packers, the 2 receivers that are active. They're still not 100%. That's one of the weaknesses for the Packers right now is Aaron Rodgers doesn't have all the tools that I think he needs for that team to be as good as they could be, including a tight end. I mean, Jimmy Graham, let's face it, he's not in his prime. And I think that they're going to have trouble there. So if the Raiders' young defensive backfield mixed with the veterans as like a joiner, I think they have to have a big day too.
Yeah, we're gonna probably see early how much Geronimo Allison and MVS are going to be playing, because I think that's going to be their plan of attack. I think will be to go after the secondary, because it's not exactly the strong point of the Raiders' offense. Whereas they've really been shutting down the run on early downs. That's one of Oakland's best, the defense's best qualities.
Right.
So you're putting those guys in the third and longs, second and long. You're forcing teams to go to passing downs. So I think you're going to see Green Bay probably try to attack that secondary early and often.
Yeah, and this is this Green Bay team, a lot of injuries. These are the kind of games that the Raiders they have to take advantage of these kind of games when the other team has this many injuries. And we look at the penalties, the kind of the silly penalties that Detroit. Obviously the 2 that shouldn't have been called last week, but the 12 men on the field that turned a field goal into a touchdown for the Packers last week, that should never happen. So if the Raiders can really limit their penalties, just play, a nice clean.
When have the Raiders ever limited their penalties?
I like being hit.
That's been the bugaboo for this team ever since I've been watching.
Oh, yeah.
You could just pencil in a good 7-8 penalties for the Raiders every game.
Well, it was always fun when the Raiders were leading the league in penalties every year and then still going to the playoffs and still dominating, even though they're getting 110, 120 yards of penalties every game.
Right. Okay. Well, so I agree with you guys there too, and I just think that this team, if they can stay in it, I like their chances today. I know everybody wants to look at the Packers and say, "Oh, it's a home game." And Kelly, I know we're going to get to predictions here in a little while. And you said it; it's a hard place to play. There's no doubt about it. The Raiders, though, if they can win this game, and I think John Gruden's smart enough to know it too. If they can win the game today. And really, really show that they have made some serious progress, that'll make them, I think, one of the big conversations in the league, because having beat the Bears in London, come to the bye week, then go and beat Green Bay in Green Bay. Now, the Raiders, 3-13 since 2003 coming off the bye. 3-13. We'll take that for whatever it's worth. But it should be interesting. I think it'll be a good day for the Raiders. Let's see how that offensive line does. All right, we're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, Bill Rabeor from WDUZ, The Fan in Green Bay, will join us as we continue to look ahead at the Packers versus Raiders coming up here at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
A new coach.
We knocked it out of the park in that area.
Broadcasting live from the Finley Chevrolet Sports Studios, home of the located on the 215 Beltway between Rainbow and Jones. Finley Chevrolet, Nevada's #1 Chevrolet volume dealer. Find new roads.
Saturday night, October 26th, to the Orleans Arena. The Pacific Concert Group presents the return of Nightmare on Q Street, starring the legendary Bone Thugs and Harmony.
This fall, get in the game and earn cash for betting sports with William Hill on your phone or tablet. During William Hill's Fall Rewards, earn up to $200 cash with the mobile sports app. Between now and December 31st, you'll be eligible for cash back points for every wager made, win or lose, on the mobile sports app. You'll also earn bonus cash back for teasers and parlay card wagers made on the app. To enroll in Fall Rewards, visit williamhill.us. That's williamhill.us.
Are you thinking about buying a rental property? Did you inherit a house and become an accidental landlord? Or maybe you're already a property investor. Whatever the case, you know that owning rental properties is smart, but managing them can be complicated and stressful. At Renters Warehouse, we think you deserve better. You deserve a partner to help you execute on your real estate investment strategy. You deserve a process that simplifies property management. And you deserve people who understand that your time is important and will do everything they can to give you more of it. Renters Warehouse is the rental property problem solver. We exist to save you time, money, and hassle, and put you on a path to financial freedom. We do it through our world-class property management services and through our exclusive real estate investment marketplace. You deserve more as a property investor. And with Renters Warehouse, you get it. Go to renterswarehouse.com right now for your free rental price analysis and your free investment property search. List, invest, rent, all under one roof at renterswarehouse.com. That's renterswarehouse.com.
The law office of Michael Troiano is a proud supporter of all things Las Vegas, including its people, specializing in legal representation for all criminal defense matters ranging from misdemeanors to the most serious felonies. Attorney Michael Troiano provides clients with the legal strategy and professional representation needed in court. If you or a loved one find yourself in a legal situation and need a tough defense on your side, Michael Troiano can help. Call now for a free consultation, 702-843-5500, or learn more at TroianoVegasLaw.com.
Want to take more of your favorite music, news, sports, and podcasts with you on the go? Download the free Radio.com app today on your phone or connected device, or listen live on your smart speaker anytime, anywhere.
CBS Sports Radio. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Shout out to our good friend Ollie in London. If you look at the video, of course, we stream all of our shows on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. You'll see the Silver and Black UK banner hanging in the studio. Ollie and the guys out there really showed us some great hospitality. Want to give them a shout out.
Yeah,
just a great group of fans in the London area. Welcomed us with open arms, and we appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yep. All right, so now we are continuing our focus on today's game. The Raiders, of course, in Green Bay to take on the 5-1 Packers. And joining us from WDUZ, The Fan, Bill Rabeor, host of Air It Out. Bill, thanks for joining us today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
My pleasure. Good morning to you.
Hey,
All right, so let's start with this team. You know, obviously 5-1, doing really well. And the season started, of course, with the head coaching change. LaFleur, the Rodgers, that marriage. How's that working out so far? On the field, it looks like everything's going well. How about behind the scenes? Is that relationship in a spot where it's going to allow for growth and this team to continue to win?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, all this stuff that was going on, or all the talk, I think was just that. I mean, I think they see eye to eye. They have from day one, and Aaron, is open to all the changes that they're having in the offense. And I don't think there's anything to any of that stuff at the beginning. So things are progressing. They seem to be getting better on the field, and all is well, especially at 5-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, talking to Bill Rabeor from the Fan in Green Bay.
Hey, Bill, it's Kelly Kreiner here. We saw on the active list that MVS and Geronimo are going to be playing today. Is there any idea about how much they're going to play and how effective they'll be out there today?
Well, no, I think that remains to be seen. We just found out, that Geronimo Allison was upgraded yesterday, so he was progressing through the concussion protocol, and so he's active today, so that's good news. We'll see if there are any lingering effects from the concussion from a week ago, and I think it's going to be tougher for MVS. He had an ankle and knee on the same play, got kind of rolled up on, and we'll keep an eye on him to see how effective he can be. Going to be big, though, for those guys to make plays today, though, because, as you know, Devontae Adams still out, but the emergence of Alan Lazard last week may be a new target for Aaron Rodgers. He lobbied for him to get on the field, and when he did, he played just 17 snaps, and when all was said and done, he led the team in receiving yards last week. So if he gets another opportunity today, we'll see if he can take advantage of it like he did last week. As Matt LaFleur said during the week, anybody can do it one time, but it's the guys that can continue to do it. Those are the guys that, become stars in this league.
That's right. Again, talking to Bill Rabeor from The Fan in Green Bay, host of Air It Out. So, Bill, when we look at this game, too, talking about those missing weapons and banged up at wide receiver for the Packers and for Aaron Rodgers, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, talk about that tandem of running backs and how that team and that beefed-up offensive line is dealing with that and how that will play into today's game.
Well, 2 weeks ago, it was all about Aaron Jones. He had a career day against the Dallas Cowboys, where 100 yards rushing, almost 100 yards receiving. Big day for him. The following week was not such a great week for him, but Jamal Williams stepped in. So they have complemented each other quite nicely here through the first 5 games. Although Jamal missed the game with the concussion issue, but they've been a really nice 1-2 tandem. They're different styles of running backs. Jones has the kind of breakaway speed that you'd like at the position. Jamal doesn't necessarily have that breakaway speed, but he's more of a power back, although we did see him get a career-long 45-yard rush last week. Both guys can catch the ball. Last week, though, Aaron Jones dropped a sure touchdown on a nice little wheel route up the seam, but Jamal picked him up at the end of the day. So they've really complemented each other nicely, and I think their running game offensively is still coming along. It's a work in progress. They've changed to a different style of blocking, different blocking scheme, which they've, I think, had at times have had some problems, but it seems to be getting better. But that's going to be key with the injuries that they have at wide receiver. They're going to lean on those running backs today. And if Matt LaFleur has shown one thing, it is that he will ride the hot hand. Whoever's having the day, he'll stick with him. So we'll see who it is today.
Yeah, I think as a coach, I think he's surprised some folks because he's made really good game decisions at times, and that has shown in the result. Now, we switch to the other side of the ball, Bill, and we look at the defense for the Packers, ranked 21st, giving up 364 yards per game. I know they've had some trouble up front and at linebacker. What's the status of that unit, and are they getting better, or is it a situation of maybe they just don't have the bodies they need?
Well, it's a weird situation. Blake Martinez is, a tackling machine. He's been at the top of the league tackling list in each of the last 2 years, but he doesn't really have a running mate. They've tried a couple of different guys at the position. B.J. Goodson they made a trade for, who came over from the Giants this year. But really, it's quite honestly a position that they have kind of ignored, that other inside linebacker. They've spent money on free agent outside linebackers, safeties, corners. They've drafted all these guys. They've pretty much ignored the inside linebacker position outside of Blake Martinez. And so I think that kind of shows.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think the Raiders, with their increased running game with rookie Josh Jacobs, I think that's going to be an interesting battle to watch today as they hit the field here in just a few minutes. And with this, the trading deadline coming up, one of the spots, too, for Aaron Rodgers that hasn't really produced as it has in the past for the Packers is at tight end. Do you see or hear anything there in Green Bay about what or if the Packers may be active at that position and others right at the trade deadline?
I doubt it. They're beat up a little bit at that position right now. And quite honestly, if you look at what Jimmy Graham has done since he got here, you'd have to say not much. He's not the Jimmy Graham of old.
No.
He looks more just like an old Jimmy Graham now. And he dropped the ball in the end zone last week. He's made a couple catches. He does have a couple touchdowns, so he has been somewhat effective, but that was a big drop last week. Mercedes Lewis has been surprisingly good catching the football. He has a reputation as a blocking tight end, which he certainly can do well, but he told us when he came here a couple of years ago, he said, don't sleep on me now in the passing game. And last year he had all of 3 catches. This year, though, throwing him the ball a little bit more, and he has been quite reliable with the hand. Behind them, Robert Tonyan is an up-and-comer, but he's been battling injury. So they haven't had a ton of production for the position, you're right, but I don't see him making any great move here before the trade deadline.
And Bill, long term, how do you look at this team in that division? Of course, the Bears have stumbled as of late. The Packers, of course, disposed of the Lions as they went from basically first to last. And then you have the Vikings, who are a little bit inconsistent but seem to be playing better. How do you look at the division overall? What's going to be the biggest obstacle for the Packers to take that division and be where they want to be?
Well, this year, they're 3-0 in the division to start with. They couldn't have asked for a better start. First trip through the division, and they're 3-0, so they have the upper hand there. And they don't play their next 3 division games to the last 3 games of the season. So all the stuff in between is going to be. They could have 10 wins by the next time they play another NFC North opponent. But if they don't, they're going to have a tougher, let's say, second trip through the division because 2 of those 3 games will be on the road. Now they got the huge road win in Week 1 against the Bears. The Vikings and the Lions had to come here first, and they'll have to go there later in the year. So those could end up being, determining games. But long term, I think you'd have to agree that, the Bears are getting better defensively, certainly. The Vikings are pretty strong. It's, they're going to have to play well. It's nothing that's going to be given to them, that's for sure. And I think as time goes on, as long as Aaron Rodgers continues to get this offense like he seems to have, picked it up over the last several weeks, and they're still, moving forward, I think they're just going to get better and better. And now they have a defense to boot, so that makes them all, that much more dangerous.
Hey, Bill, it's Kelly Kreiner again. Quick question for you. Any chance the Packers brought the same officiating crew they had last week so I can just know whether or not to turn the game off right now or not?
Yeah, I don't think they did.
Okay.
I don't think they did. I think they tried to order them up, but they were not successful. You know what? Those the calls are calls. They happen on both sides. There were a couple things that didn't go their way last week. The things that did go their way, they'll all happen at the end, so everyone focuses on that. But look, the officiating in this league, I think, has been bad for years. It's not getting any better. They're throwing more flags this year than they have in a long time, so it's just something that you have to deal with.
No, that's right. Bill Rabeor from WDUZ, The Fan in Green Bay, host of the popular program Air It Out. Bill, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate the time today and enjoy the game.
I will. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
All right, there you go. We have dissected and looked at the Packers versus Raiders, hearing from the Green Bay side, and we've given you a little bit of our keys of the game. When we come back, we're going to have Kelly's Corner, our picks for the Raiders game, and for the NFL today, should you decide to make a small wager. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
When you need inside info on your Raiders, you'll find it right here.
I do really think, as far as Derek's concerned, he needs to learn a little bit more patience, have a little bit more patience with the offense.
All the time, it's all about the details, and we'll watch the film. There's a lot of meat on that bone out there.
Las Vegas' only all Raiders talk show, Silver and Black today.
Just in, the NFL announcing it has suspended Raiders linebacker Vontaze Burfict for the
Cowboys take on the Eagles this afternoon at 4:45 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Soon to have our sister brother show, whatever you want to call it. Tuesday nights, if you missed our announcement at the beginning of the show, Silver and Black Tonight will debut October 29th. That's Tuesday, so we'll be on every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. so that we can break down the game that was on Sunday. And then the Sunday show, we can look much more at in-depth Raider issues and also the game that will be coming up. Now is one of our favorite portions of the show, really, where we just, we're all in awe of our draft expert. And that's the one thing, I think, Kelly, when we're not talking draft, people forget how you are our draft expert. Your Twitter handle at Rating the Draft.
Yep.
You know your stuff. And so you find yourself in a situation yesterday where the draft and a certain subject came up, and I know that's going to be part of your Kelly's Corner today. So take it away, brother.
It is. Sitting yesterday watching a great football game, had an awesome ending, but Oregon and Washington had the number 2 and number 4 quarterback prospect, in my opinion, in this draft this year with Eason and Herbert. And I'm just sitting there talking with some people in the bar about it. And I heard from a guy the same thing I've heard from people on Twitter. I hear people all the time that Justin Herbert's not going to make it in the NFL because Oregon quarterbacks never make it in the NFL. And it's the laziest comment you could ever imagine if you really look into this stuff. Because has Oregon had a quarterback for a while? No. But they've had several coaches.
Not since Mariota.
Mariota's failed. I mean, I consider him a failure, and he was the number 2 pick in the draft because he's going to be without a team next year.
Yep.
He's definitely not
signed.
Well, he's not going to be a starter though. Yeah. He's not going to be Marcus Mariota will not be a starter in the NFL next year, and if he is, it's because the team's trying to get Trevor Lawrence in that draft.
If that team would be what?
They're tanking. Trash. Yeah. If he's your starter, you're not winning much.
Okay, so give your example. You had a great example of other programs where if this was true, then
if this was true, the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft, which are Tua, Herbert, and Joe Burrow, who's just exploded out of LSU, all 3 of them are going to be failures. You know who the last quarterback from LSU to do anything in the pros was Burt Jones. That happened 6 years before I was born. I'm 40.
Not to be confused with Tom Jones. It's not unusual. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
but breaking into
okay.
song.
So Tua at Alabama, the last Alabama quarterback to do anything was Ken Stabler. Once again, before I was born, I'm 40. It's been 5 decades since either one of these programs have put a quarterback out that's done anything in the NFL.
Right.
Well, we talked about that too. I mean, being a Notre Dame fan, same thing. That's Joe Montana. Really, there's not been a real successful quarterback. I mean, there's been guys who've been backups, but nobody who went first round that then became an NFL star. So it's a very interesting conversation.
So to just come out and say, well, Oregon quarterback, sure, there hasn't been an Oregon quarterback since Dan Fouts do much.
Right.
But that's just, I mean, there's been so many different coaches, so many differences. It's just lazy, but I hear it every time at draft season. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they never work out. They never work out. Well, Eastern Illinois and Eastern Washington have had more quarterbacks lately that have done stuff in the NFL than some of your top programs. It doesn't mean the quarterbacks at your top programs now will not be good. Barring injury, and we saw Tua get his ankle rolled over pretty bad, Tua Tagovailoa is going to be a very good NFL quarterback.
I think so too.
Joe Burrow has got the shot to be a very good NFL quarterback. There was a little thing on Twitter that the LSU team put out where they've had 7 quarterbacks drafted in the last 20 years, and they're the only SEC team to do it. And then they showed who the quarterbacks were, and it just completely destroyed their point because those quarterbacks were Danny Etling, Zach Mettenberger, Matt Flynn, Jamarcus Russell, Josh Booty, Rohan Davey.
Josh Booty, remember him?
Yeah, and Matt Mock.
Oh, Matt Mock.
You're saying, in 20 years, you've had those 7 quarterbacks come out there. There's like 9 wins between 7 quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, and
I'm just throwing that number out there.
The Pac-12 hasn't put out a lot of good, successful first-round type draft picks either, despite the fact that being a really weak conference over the last 20 years, maybe 15 years. So it's an interesting point. All right, we're going to now pick our winner for today. Right, for the Raiders. Okay, so we're going to take a look, and for those watching on video, we have a graphic we're going to put up. It's going out on Twitter as well. So here's what we got. Chaz, you have the Raiders winning a close one, 23-20.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
biggest reason why?
The point you made earlier.
Quickly.
You're talking about coaching, and I think, with all the injuries on both sides of the ball, if the Raiders come out, any NFL team, if you come out with effort and energy, for 60 minutes, you're going to win the ball game. It doesn't matter your talent. Obviously there's talent levels, but that effort and that energy that we had in London against the Bears, if we could just duplicate that, they'll come out with a win. But you made the point about the coaches, and it's going to be a chess match, with Gruden and LaFleur. And I just believe that the Raiders are going to come down at the end of the game and do something special and kick that game-winning field goal.
You don't think it's going to be more like checkers?
I was going to say it's a chess match, but both these coaches are playing Scrabble.
Oh, boy. There's Kelly. Okay, so we'll skip to Kelly. Mo's got his pick. You can look, if you're looking online, you can see the graphic. I'll just give it. Mo picks the Raiders 21-20, so similar to Chaz. Kelly, you have the Green Bay Packers topping the Raiders 24-20.
Yeah.
What's going to be the key?
And, well, this was before. I mean, we made these picks before we knew Brown was inactive.
Yeah.
I just think the defense is going to be a little too much for the Raiders. That's just the lack of weapons in the wide receiving core right now.
Right.
And with Allison and MVS both active for Green Bay, I just think they're going to have a little too much. If this game was in Oakland, I'd probably be looking at the Raiders. But I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, no, it's true. All right, then I have the wild card pick here. I have the Raiders putting up points.
Yes,
taking advantage and really coming out. Derek Carr having a big day. Josh Jacobs I have the Raiders 31-24. I have them by 7.
Taking advantage of what?
Injuries.
You said you got them coming out taking advantage.
Yeah, injuries and defense up the middle.
Okay.
As you heard Bill Rabeor say, Martinez doesn't have a partner in the middle linebacker spot. So I think the Raiders are going to have a better day.
Linebackers don't matter. We're Raider fans. We know this.
All right, so that's what we have. Now we're going to pick our NFL picks quickly with the minute or so we have left. I have Houston +1, and I have the Rams Atlanta over. Surprise.
That's not a shocker right there.
Right.
Everybody in the planet's on that one.
Which means Chaz is going to bet the opposite.
Yeah, always.
Okay.
Bet the opposite.
Chaz, what do you got?
Well, I got the Ravens going to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. So I'm going to take a big road win today in Seattle. Patriots +3, 3.5, depending on where you're getting it. And then the Bengals. Bengals are going to get their first win of the season this week, and they're getting 4.5.
Now, last week you were what?
I was 5-1. Oh,
well, no. With our picks, you were 2-0. I was 2-0. You were 2-0. We all three were. No, you lost one.
I was 1-1.
You lost the one. Okay.
Yeah, I bet against Bridgewater again.
All right.
Which I kind of want to do again today. But there's no way I'm doing it and go 3 in a row.
Kelly, what do you got for your picks?
I am taking the under in that Chicago-New Orleans game. I got it at 40 on Monday. It's down to like 38 right now. Wow. So I think it's 38's the actual number. So there's going to be a defensive score that's going to run that one. And then I'm taking the most public side on the planet. I'm taking San Francisco -9.5 in the Shanahan Revenge Bowl.
Nice.
If he can drop 50 on him, I think he does.
All right, that is it. Chaz Osborne, Kelly Kreiner, thanks for being here. As always, I am Scott Branson. You've been listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Catch us next Sunday, 8 to 10. And starting the 29th, catch Silver and Black tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Have a great NFL Sunday. See you later.
The law office of Michael Troiano.